And welcome back, fellow football fanatics. This is College Football with Sam, and Adam Carriker is kind enough to lend us some of his time here and discuss recent developments with Nebraska football. We'll be discussing Dylan Raiola's injury, his adjusted expectations for the season, how he views these final three games. Welcome in, Adam. How are you doing today?
Life is good, man. I got no complaints. How are you, Sam?
Same thing. It's been a blast this week, honestly, with all the different changes to the channel. Let's start off discussing what we were talking about a little bit backstage about your expectations for the team post injury. You said you're trying to give a little bit of grace as much as you can due to the tragedy that was that injury, but that you also still expect this team to win some football games.
So before the season, I said 8-4. That's very key wording. 8-4 was the bottom of the barrel of what I'd consider to be an acceptable, successful season. Why? Because we went 7-5, or we were 6-6 and 7-6 at the end of the bowl game. I'm like, well, if you want to be better, you got to go in the right direction. And we're not sitting here playing Oklahoma's schedule or Florida, and they're basically playing like the NFC East, North, and South in their college football schedules this year. Coming into the season, we had the preseason by multiple publications ranked as the easiest schedule in the Big Ten. It has not turned out to be drastically different than we anticipated. Cincinnati was better. I mean, this is going to be a terrible example because, the Minnesota game didn't go great, but they're not as good as we thought they might be. That didn't help us in our game. And you look at the other opponents that we've had, they've been about where we thought they would be. Certainly not. Nobody's exceeded that. Like Michigan's not exceeded where we thought they would be. USC's not exceeded. And I keep listing all the teams we've lost to, but my point is those are the best teams we played. So knowing what the schedule was, we had a lot of hype in the preseason from the Matt Rule year 3 jump and everything else that I don't want to go through again because I've talked about it a million times. I was like, I don't know if I buy into the leap and the jump and all that. I got to see it. Let's just at least take one step forward. And one step forward is one more win in the win column. Your point, wishing him a speedy goes down. You could have surgery. Some week, true freshman quarterback, TJ Lateef's going to step up for us. And immediately I was like, oh, what would I consider a success now? And I was like, you know what? I'm just, I'm so tired of everything seeming figured like talented. You look at 9 out of 12 this year. So 9 wins should have been the bottom of the barrel of what's acceptable. But again, I'm trying to be as generous as I can. And I hope that's the right word, which is where I came up with 8. And you look at the old Big Ten West, what were we in 11, 12 years? There was 1 year where somebody out recruited us in high school recruiting rankings, and that was Wisconsin. 1 year, one time out of 11 or 12 years. Yet look, we have zero, I guess one West championship, so to speak, and that's it. So I'm kind of like, all right, injuries happen. I'm tired of losing games to teams that have less experienced coaches or perceived lesser talented rosters. And I'm tired of things having to be seemingly perfect again. Nobody said that. But it's like at some point, you just got to figure out a freaking way. And I look at UCLA, we're a 2.5 point underdog. I look at Penn State, we're already an underdog. Iowa, we're an underdog. And I'm like, we have 4 games left. And whoever we play in the bowl game, which by the projections I've seen, I know the Citrus Bowl wants us. Will we win enough games to get the invite that they want to give to us? I don't know. We'll see. But if you go to the Citrus Bowl, you're going to play somebody like whoever doesn't make the college football playoff, a Texas or an Oklahoma, LSU. We're probably going to be an underdog. It's like I'm tired of losing games where other people figure out how to beat us. It's our turn to prove something. Matt Rule called this a crossroads. He called it an opportunity. Opportunities aren't born out of situations where you have the perceived advantage. Opportunities are born out of situations where you have perceived like something you have to overcome. And I'm not saying we got Mount Everest in front of us, but if you got a mountain in front of you, the only thing left to do is start climbing. Can we figure out a way to win 2 out of 4 games where we're probably going to be an underdog in all 4? And the other thing I looked at was like, we shouldn't have lost to Minnesota. They mollywopped us, but we shouldn't have lost to them, or figure out a way to beat USC, or figure out a way to beat Michigan, because I could argue we should have at least one more win in the W column right now and already be at 7. So that's kind of where I'm at. But I did adjust it because it was 8-4 before the season, and the key wording now is 8 wins, including the bowl game. So technically, you can be 7-5, win the bowl game, get to 8-5, or you can be 8-4, lose the bowl game, get to 8-5. That's how I'm looking at it.
I think that's reasonable and full of wise words and analogies
Wise.
there.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you're a former player, both for Nebraska and in the NFL. I imagine you can recall several games where your team had to find a way to win when you either weren't supposed to win or you were underdogs, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of the game, and I said this on my show. If you play long enough, the injury rate's 100%. And I was told that about 1 billion times while I was a player. And guess what? They were right. An injury in my career, so it's one of those things where you got to have a next man up mentality. Our coaches have a ton of experience, great resumes. There's been times this year where you wonder if we had the actual coaching advantage after the game was over. This is an opportunity for our coaches to put on display the experience that they have and start to show the world how good our coaches can be.
I completely agree with that, especially because, like you said, in the final 4 games, Nebraska should probably be an underdog in all of those, especially if you're an underdog to UCLA already. You're not going to be favored at Penn State. You're not going to be favored against Iowa. Before we get to specifically UCLA and specifically Raiola and Latif and what you expect of the team moving forward, which out of the final 3 games do you think is the most challenging, and also which is the most important to set a tone?
Oh, that's one and the same. Iowa, one and the same. It's similar to Minnesota in the fact that we're sick and tired of losing to Iowa as Nebraska fans. Like the 2 games before the season that stuck out to most people nationally were USC, Michigan. Why? Big brands. Okay. To Nebraska people, or at least to myself, it was Minnesota, Iowa, because I'm sick and tired of losing to them. All right, Minnesota's done and gone. But we have an opportunity against, I guess, who's our biggest rival now. And to be fair, if we want it to be a rivalry, we got to start winning more often. Okay, because when we started this rivalry, I remember Osborne, and he put it like the most eloquent way. Because at that point in time, we were perceived to be significantly ahead of Iowa. He said, in order for it to be a rivalry, both sides have to be equally engaged. Translation: both teams need to be competitive and win games. Right now, they've got a drastic edge on us. So, for me, it's the toughest game is probably Iowa, and the most important game is definitely Iowa.
The Hawkeyes right now are standing at 6-2 with an opportunity to win out and even get to the college football playoff if they beat Oregon. They're not even a touchdown underdog to Oregon. That would be quite a interesting outcome if Nebraska finds a way to win one of their next 2. Iowa wins out, and yet you have a pretty big Heroes Trophy game that Friday, Black Friday, of course, at noon. Looking at the team, Raiola's injury, a fibula injury, that's an injury that takes quite a bit of time to recover from, right?
It does, and I'm not an expert in this. At first, it was thought that he wouldn't need to have surgery. Then, Rule announced on Monday he would. If he didn't need to have surgery, typically, again, I'm not a doctor, it's about 6 weeks, roughly. When you add in an injury, I would assume it's a surgery. I would assume it's got to at least be doubled. Now, I've had surgeries where it was a 6-week recovery, but it was like a bone spur being shaved off or something like that. So, again, I don't know the in-depth details of this, but as far as him playing football this year, we know enough to know because Rule said so. He's done playing football this year.
That's a very tragic story. Obviously, Nebraska has been full of a lot of those, but as you've said, those happen. I've watched different teams who've even won national titles have like critical, damning injuries to tackles or offensive linemen or key players. You have to respond to that accordingly. So with TJ Lateef, what do you know about him? How do you view him as a quarterback? What are some of his strengths and weaknesses?
When he signed with us, I remember and this was just my high opinion of him. I remember putting out on social media, we've got our quarterback of the future. It got a decent response, but the reason I bring that up was because I've always kind of felt like he's been not disrespected in any way, shape, or form, but just not talked about enough. I don't want to use the term overlooked, but that's kind of how he felt to me. Kind of like Emmett Johnson this whole offseason. It's kind of like, oh, he's our starter, and the focus was on who's behind him, and for good reason. But it was kind of like he's probably the best player on our team. And there were times in the offseason I was be like, let's talk about him more. Don't take him for granted. And with TJ, you have Dylan in front of him, okay, at the time, and then a bunch of guys coming in that are really talented behind him, from Dylan Raiola to Trey Taylor in 2027. So I get it, but I was like, man, that dude's really talented. Then after camp, they announced that he's clear-cut number two. It's not a, we had a bunch of ors on our depth chart. There was no or. Now, Jalen Gromstad thought about not coming back to Nebraska. They specifically recruited him back. I believe it's his sixth year in college football total. This is a dude who was like an FCS All-American and did great things at the FCS level, national title games. And they recruited him back, including Dylan himself and the coaches. And then all of a sudden, TJ's the clear cut number two. And this isn't a shot at Jalen. He's phenomenal. He's like a coach on the field, but he's number three. And it's never wavered. And so for a true freshman to come in and do that, I thought that spoke highly. So what it tells you is, and he wasn't just here January, spring, and the summer. He was actually here for the bowl prep because for some reason you can do that now. And I'm glad he was here. But he's been here almost a year, about 11 months now. And so he's been getting reps. He's got time under his belt. What he doesn't have is a ton of game experience. Played against Houston, Akron, and obviously the second half of USC. This will be his first start. I don't question the ability. I don't question many things. It's just, hey, in order to get the experience, you got to go get the experience, and there's a process to that.
Absolutely. You have to play, and this will be a great opportunity against a UCLA team that for a minute there looked hot, but is still nowhere near the level of a good team. This is kind of a it's good the UCLA game is here and you don't have to play Penn State or Iowa now and then UCLA in a few weeks. What's your view on the UCLA game? Your prediction for it, and also what you think are some opportunities for Nebraska and some concerns you have with them in regards to their matchup with the Bruins.
It's not just because we're playing them, but if somebody said, who's the most unpredictable team in America, I would point to UCLA. Their first four games of the year, they started 0-4. They led for 0 combined seconds. They lost to two G5 teams on average by 17 points in those two games. Then, and you got to keep in mind, Penn State hadn't fallen off the wagon yet. They were still a top 10 team. It wasn't that long ago. They had a lead in double overtime over Oregon. Man, how things can change quickly in college football. The very next week, they're carrying Jerry Neuheisel, the offensive coordinator, off the field, and UCLA shocking the world. And then they win their next two games. So they're on a 3-game winning streak. You go play Indiana, and I don't know what to make of the Indiana game other than Indiana's really good. UCLA was hot. Where are they at now? Had they played competitively with Indiana, I'd be more concerned, or I'd feel more certain about what to expect now, because I've been a part of NFL teams where maybe we started 0-4 at the start of the year with the St. Louis Rams. We have a bye week. We fire the coach. We come out. We beat the Cowboys, who were like 4-0 or something, and we win 2 games in a row. And then it levels off, and the rest of the season, we had like 2 wins at the end. So my question is, did they truly have a turnaround? Because better coaching, no dig at Deshaun Foster, but there was a clear difference when he was fired. Or were they just hot, and now have they leveled off, and now they're going to go back down to what they showed us early on? So they're wildly unpredictable. Nico Iamaleava is the most unpredictable quarterback in America, outside of maybe the guy we're going to start this weekend, just because he's never started. And you don't know what to expect in a situation like that. He's former 5-star, first-round talent with undrafted consistency. So who knows what's going to happen there? He's also their leading rusher. So the Jaden Maeva, he didn't have much success through the air, but man, he had some success with the read option, a career high 11 carries, averaged over 5 yards a carry. So hopefully that helps us get ready for Nico, because he is their best rusher too. So they're unpredictable. You look at us, we've been very up and down all year. Now we've got a quarterback with an absurdly high ceiling. Also, just because of we don't know what's going to happen. There's a low floor there. You don't know which way it's going to go. I do feel like the floor is lowered because Dana Holgerson's had a week to build a game plan around TJ Lateef, and he's going to get reps with the ones, and he's going to get more reps. And if I'm the If I'm Holgerson, he's getting like 95% of the reps. That's
Yes.
just what I'm doing. And at least you've got a baseline of where you think to be with a much higher ceiling, but it's still so unpredictable coming into this game. Like last week, I predicted USC to win, which made it the toughest game for me to predict because it's tough for me to predict against Nebraska. This was the hardest game because I legit going in had no idea who I was going to predict to win.
Yeah, that's it was tough for me to predict because on paper I feel like even with the backup QB, Nebraska's the better team. But from my understanding too, Nebraska, and this is probably a good area for us to close out, is their lines of scrimmage, I think are, and I'm not an expert, I haven't played the game, but I do a lot of research and I hope that I know what I'm talking about a little bit. It feels like they have Big 12 or maybe ACC level lines of scrimmage. And then their receivers and QB and their wonderful secondaries, Big 10 caliber. And with UCLA, the one thing they are good at doing is running the ball. And defensively, the one thing they're good at doing is slowing down the run. What what do you think went into like some of Nebraska's struggles in the trenches this year? And am I wrong, or have they improved in offensive line play these past two games against Northwestern and USC?
When you look at the defensive line first, they're young. They have one senior on the entire three deep.
Oh
At
wow.
both ends, nose guard. You go the three deep, there's one senior, and it's Elijah Judy. They also, so they're very young and a lot of underclassmen. They've also only got two guys who are even listed at 300, and they're listed at 300, not 340, 320, 315. And you've always got to take what guys are listed at with a grain of salt. I won't divulge a name, but every week when I was a freshman, he was a senior, so I didn't say a word. I would get on the scale every Thursday, and every week he would turn around, he'd tell the strength coach 222, 225, 227. It was like 207, 204, 209, because I could see it, but I didn't say nothing. So you've always got to take listings with a grain of salt. So a little bit undersized, a little bit young. So I am excited to see what they can do next year. Another year of experience here in the weight room. You look at the offensive line, it has been better the past couple of weeks. It's interesting because the teams that have rushed the quarterback the best before they played us outside of Michigan have gotten the least amount of sacks against us. The teams that rushed the quarterback the worst, Michigan State before they played us, zero power four sacks. Minnesota before they play us, zero sacks in the two games leading up to our game. Michigan State walked away with 5 sacks. Minnesota walked away with about 1,000. I think it was 9. It was 9, which was an unfortunate school record. Yet we play Maryland, who was number 1 in the Big Ten and number 5 in the country at the time we played them. They got 1. You look at some of these other schools that we played that have better athletes off the edges, and they walk away with 1 or 2. So I think it's a little bit of we're going to establish the run early. We're going to get our quarterback in a rhythm. We're going to get the ball out quick. We're going to establish play action pass. Every single one of those things slows down, would make my life harder as far as trying to get after the quarterback because I can't just sit back and tee off.
Yeah.
And in the games where we gave up a lot of sacks, we had a lot more pass attempts than we did run attempts. So I think it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand with getting the ball out quicker. It goes hand in hand with how the game plan is put together, and it goes hand in hand with how the offensive line plays. And I think it's all come together a little bit better the past couple of weeks as well.
Thank you for coming on my show and for answering all these questions. I love the fact that we're in contact and you're able to give us a kind of really in-depth look at Nebraska football, what's going on. And I unfortunately, just due to the spread and due to the uncertainty, I picked UCLA this weekend, but I honestly hope I'm wrong. I hope that Nebraska can pull away with a win, entering a, I would think, much needed bye before that final critical 2-game stretch.
So, man, it was tough. I did end up predicting Nebraska. And I know the Homer thing, as I sit here in all Nebraska gear, I completely get it, is going to come out. The reason I predicted them is because I looked at the game, we could not be more evenly matched. They allow on what is it? They score on average in their past few games. I think it's 19.8 points. We allow 20. They allow 31. We score 33. They outgain their opponents by an average of 53 yards a game. We outgain our opponents by an average of 53 yards a game. It's crazy how similar we are across the board. But I looked at it, and I was like, all right, there's four possible outcomes. We win close, they win close, we blow them out, they blow us out. I could see us winning close, them winning close. If they've gone down the tubes like they did the beginning of the year, I don't think it will happen, but I could see us blowing them out. Where I had a hard time was I don't think they blow us out. Our defense hasn't given up 400 yards at all this year. And for me, we're leaky in the run game. They're also dead last in the Big Ten in running the ball. And so for me, they might beat us. The potential of beating us soundly is there. We just don't tend to give up big plays through the air, and they don't run the ball great, at least not statistically. So my thought was, even if they beat us by a solid 7 or 8, that might feel like a pounding, but I just don't think the spread would be there. And so to me, that increased the odds of us winning by just a smidge. So I did go with Nebraska slightly.
I don't think that's biased at all. I had a really, really hard time going down with it, and I just sided with the fact that, UCLA is a favorite for a reason. But again,
Yep.
I very much hope I'm wrong because I think Nebraska has something special building. I like it when blue bloods are good, and Nebraska's one of those. And UCLA is a nice story for sure, but I don't really see much of a long-term future there unless they prove me wrong, I guess. So thank you again for coming on, Adam. This is Adam Carriker. You can find him on Carriker Chronicles, correct, on YouTube?
Yeah, CarrikerChronicles.com is the website, and then YouTube, Carriker Chronicles.
Awesome. Make sure, everyone, if you haven't already, to like, share, and subscribe, and share your thoughts down below. And visit CarrikerChronicles.com and also subscribe to his channel and hit the notification bell. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you very soon.